So at first, thank you for the interview, that you have time to tell me a few things about your work.
Hey,
As
no
I
problem.
as I wrote to you, normally I record also videos, and I record gaming videos, mostly about retro consoles, or something like
I've
that.
seen your. I got to see a couple of your videos. I couldn't understand them because I don't speak German, but yeah, it seemed it's pretty cool. I like it.
We can come back later to this point, and I can describe you a little bit in English. Yeah, I thought about to make also a video in English to tell the people how it works, maybe.
Yeah, I think also YouTube might have like I know YouTube has automatic um closed caption, so it might be able to translate like automatically translate your like between languages. I don't know. I haven't looked that up.
Yeah, the subtitles works well, but I'm not really sure if there are translation functions or something like that.
Hmm.
Okay.
Even then, Google Translate doesn't always isn't always that accurate now, is it?
To introduce you, right, you are also a musician, aren't you?
I am actually more a music. I consider myself more a musician than a gamer. I particularly I like this whole project got started simply like not because I really love like retro games, but because I absolutely love the Donkey Kong Country games first and foremost.
Okay, so if I say later on that you're a musician, this is right.
Absolutely. 'Cause I don't play that many instruments. I only play keys, but like more, I'm more of a composer. But definitely, I like to think I'm a musician in some way. So, yes.
Okay. Um, so I will start the recording, and don't wonder, I will start after 2 or 3 seconds, because I need a little bit time to merge the video together with the intro sequence I have. Okay. No. Ah, normally. Okay, I can't record it. What is this? Uh, okay, Patrick is recording it, so it's also okay.
Okay.
Welcome to a new episode of my blind gaming reviews. This will be a special one because I won't talk about games or gaming devices this time. Today, I'm going to talk about game soundtracks, especially the soundtracks of some Super Nintendo games, which impressed me very much. And I have a guest for today's episode, Sam Miller. He is a musician, and in addition to making music himself, Sam restores old soundtracks. And why and how he does that, he will tell us in the next couple of seconds. So at first, Sam, welcome to be part here of my blind gaming reviews for the Retro Compot podcast, and also for my private YouTube channel. Um, I would like you to introduce yourself at first.
All right. Yeah. Hi. How you doing? I'm happy to be here. My name is Jammin Sam or Sam Miller, and I've gained a small following or a small community, I should say, restoring the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack.
And how did you come up with the idea to restore old game soundtracks?
Well, it's like it's mostly the idea came like because really I'm a really huge fan of the Donkey Kong Country series. I've been pretty much obsessed with it since I was a kid. It was kind of and I have I suffer from Asperger's syndrome, and a lot of times that like a lot of people with that become obsessed with like a different like some piece of art, like a movie, like a particular movie or something like that. Donkey Kong Country was mine, and so I've stuck with it since I was a kid. And and over time I started to get into music, so I learned how the like the soundtrack was created and how the computers like handled the samples. And if you don't know music, that might be Greek to you. But basically, I learned how the game made music, and I found out that I could save the instruments from the game. Like say, like basically save the sounds from the game and like play them on my in my computer studio, like on my music studio. And that kind of just led to one thing led to another, where I was able to figure out that these sounds, like they came from somewhere, right? Like most of them, they didn't record, they're not real instruments. They didn't The company didn't record them themselves. So these instruments are these audio samples that, well, I'll have to back up. The game makes music by like all the instruments are stored as a single note. The music isn't made and then put into the game. There's a recording of a single note of an instrument. Like let's say you had a sax, and they would have one note, like just literally bah, and they like of a sax playing, and then they would just put it into the game, and then the game would play the melody that the sax was supposed to play, if that makes sense. And so the whole game was the music was made this way, where everything stored in the game was just like a single note of an instrument, and then you had and that or a drum hit, and that was that. Now I figured out that these had to come from somewhere, right? And where they came from was drum machines, workstation keyboards, with the sounds on them, where they would buy the keyboards and then play the sounds and then record a single note from them and then put them into the game. So what I and once I found that out, I realized if I go and find these instruments, because obviously when they put them into the game is very small and very compressed. So they had to reduce the file size. And for those of you that don't know much about computers, that means they had to drastically reduce the quality of the sounds. So I found out if I go and find what sounds they used and get them from these keyboards, drum machines, etc., I can access the high quality versions of these instruments that they used, and then I can go and say, and then I can go and recreate the entire soundtrack in high quality by taking those sounds and put in like sort of reconstructing the soundtrack. Now the other end to that was that I needed the actual music instruction data, like the melodies that were to be played, not just the instruments themselves. So once, and it was all in hex data, and most computers now read MIDI data for music. And so being they were in hex data, it was a little bit hard to read because that's basically like a programming language. But I had to get a program to very crudely convert the hex data to MIDI so that the computer could read the music from the game. And so once I had the high quality versions of the instruments and the actual music data for the music to be played, all I had to do was plug them together, really. And so once I like it's a bit of a it took like 3 hours per song to do on average, because of how, like, just how messed up the conversion from hex data to MIDI was. And then once I got it to where, okay, like I took pieces of the MIDI data and like plugged them into their respective instruments so that it would sound like an actual song. Just had to put the song together. And I have like video I have like streams of that I did of where I actually do this process from beginning to end for each song, and they're stored on my YouTube. You can go and watch them if you really want to see exactly all the details that went into this. But basically, you plug the music data, you plug the music data into the instruments, into the high quality versions of the instruments, and then I do some mixing and mastering to make it really like sort of pop, to make it really feel like it came from the 21st century. And then that's the song.
You just answered my next questions. How do you go about restoring a soundtrack? Okay, we got this. Which soundtracks have you ever restored? Only the ones from Donkey Kong Country?
Only those so far. Just started Super Metroid. People have asked me to do all sorts of soundtracks. And I just like, I'm not really a video game music fan, so I don't really have like sort of the motivation to do all of these soundtracks that people are asking me, but I did Super Metroid because I feel that it was really an electronic soundtrack. Um, and it like it's at first and foremost it was an electronic slash orchestral soundtrack, just like Donkey Kong Country was. People have asked me to do like things like Mega Man and Plock, and I'm like, and my response is that, well, these are not really electronic soundtracks. They don't like really Mega something like Mega Man would be best served with actual like bolstering like metal guitars and like and hard hitting drums like for real, like the real thing. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfect. I think now is a good time to listen to some examples. I highly recommend to you guys to put on some headphones for the next 2 minutes to notice the differences between the original and Sam's restored version. First, you will hear two excerpts from the original soundtrack, followed by the restored work. Okay, so here we go. All right. Yeah, that's it uh, for the moment.
Hey.
Would it be possible to restore every type of Super Nintendo soundtracks?
Well, it depends on two things. One, it depends on can I get access. Well, the SPCs already exist, with like as in the actual like the raw music data from the game. What it really depends on is do you know what equipment they are like the composers use to make the soundtrack? Like, do you know what keyboards, what drum machines, where they got the sounds from? That's really where the question lies. If you can find I mean, in the 90s, there were only so many machines to look through. But if you can find where, like, from all those vast pool of like Roland, Korg, and whatever samples, if you can find what they used, then you can restore the soundtrack.
But how do you know which kind of synthesizers or wavetables or whatever they used for composing the soundtrack?
Well, if they use a synthesizer, in particular, I just like use a whatever FL Studio's proprietary synthesizer is, because if you got if they use a synthesizer, you can really recreate any type of instrument that they used. But if it's a sample, like that's a recording that only exists in that one machine, and you can never recreate it. But depending on but whatever samples they used, you can find them like you can there's only like you can ask them. First of all, I asked David Wise what he used, and he gave me a list of some of the equipment he used, and then but not everything was on there, right? So I had to go looking through a lot of like different. I had to go looking online, like they have VSTs and all that that you can buy of the actual machines, because I couldn't afford to buy all the actual machines. But I went and like I would just download old 90s samples and try to figure out like try to see if I could hear the samples that were used and find the original ones. And eventually I found all of them. So it's just a lot of searching around, really.
Wow. Have you received any feedback for your amazing work?
Oh, I've received a lot of feedback. People comment on to these things on YouTube. They comment on my Twitter. They some of them ask me questions on Instagram, and people I've gotten a whole bunch of suggestions like, can you do the Donkey Kong Country 3 Game Boy Advance soundtrack? I can't, but I can't. Always have to tell them I can't do that because one, the sounds are much newer and you can't really get them online, or they cost a lot of money to buy online. And also as I understand it, the Game Boy Advanced hasn't really been hacked. Like the music, you can't get the music from the system, so you can't really like pull the music out of the game to see what's being played, and so that presents a problem. And I don't know much about computers as except for how it relates to music. So I haven't been able to like try like I really don't even know how to hack anything.
Have you ever thought about sending your work to Nintendo or to one of their composers whose work you restored?
Well, actually, it's been mentioned to like I've been mentioned to David Wise a couple of times over interviews. So he kind of he's kind of heard about me. He knows what I do. Um, and I haven't really sent anything to Nintendo because I'm afraid they might shut me down if I do, because like Nintendo has been known to or companies like that have been known to shut people down if they get too close to the copyright things. And what I'm doing is kind of a legal gray area, I'm sure. So I'd rather not mess with that.
Will you be releasing new soundtracks anytime soon?
I'm working on Metroid, and it's I don't know how far I'm gonna take that, because there's only like I like the Metroid soundtrack. There's only so many of the songs I like enough to do like a full-on restoration of. But I'm planning on really after other than Metroid, I'm not really planning on doing any soundtracks, because most of the soundtracks out there are like either they kind of they don't really push the limits of the system too much, and they would pretty much just sound the same if they were restored. Like there wouldn't be much of an elevation, I feel. Or it's a purely orchestral soundtrack, like things like Final Fantasy, and where it would really be best served if you had an actual orchestra play them, I feel. So I'm really more focused on trying to do original music. I have some original music up on YouTube, and I've gotten some good feedback from that. So I'm sort of moving forward. I'm looking towards doing original music and maybe some Donkey Kong Country remixes as well.
Yeah, what kind of music do you produce?
Well, it's really, for all intents and purposes, it's video game style music. But what I like to do is I like to take a theme, like a video game theme, and like a common video game stage per se, like maybe like let's say a jungle, and then I would fuse it with a certain type of popular music, and it'd basically be like a hybrid of those two things. Like it'd be a you know like I did one where it was like a jungle tune, but it was like it had like a very electro swing kind of vibe.
Okay, people who are interested to listen to more stuff of you, how or where could they find it?
Well, you can hear pretty much everything on my YouTube on my main YouTube page. Yeah, everything's stored on there. I also have a, SoundCloud where you can hear. Well, there's also some. I also have some film soundtracks on SoundCloud. So if you go to my SoundCloud name is blue underscore tronic, like blue tronic. And so you can hear some of the film soundtracks I've done on there as well. I also have a website where you can hear. Actually, probably the most comprehensive way to hear what I have is through my website, jamminsandmueller.com. And I have all my music up there that I've done for films and for myself.
Wow. Oh, that sounds great and amazing. Sam, thank you very much for this exciting interview. It was a
Hey,
pleasure.
glad to be here. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
is there something you want to tell us at the end? Something you want to say?
Well, just that I'm really grateful for how all this. I never expected any of this to come to pass as it were. It just kind of happened, and I'm very grateful to for the sort of miniature community I've created here and how people have come together to enjoy these works that I've done. And really, I'm just grateful that people can that I found a way to create something out of my appreciation for the Donkey Kong Country series.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.